All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the wasmCloud community meeting for Wednesday, April 24th. Today, we are going to be talking about, after a various round of demos of WebAssembly things, wasmCloud applications. Essentially, we're going to be doing a hackathon showcase from some of us on the maintainer side and some of us working at Cosmonic did a hackathon at the start of the week. So we're going to be showing off some of the outputs of that, and it should be pretty fun. We're going to have some things just in the WebAssembly space, like the WebAssembly standard space, some things that are, WASM Cloud capability providers, et cetera, all things WebAssembly. So hopefully everybody will enjoy that, and then all of it. We should be sharing the code shortly after. And then I want to talk briefly about the discussion prep because originally we planned to talk about the roadmap this week, but I think it would be very valuable to continue to gather some feedback on issues and features to prioritize from the community. So we'll come back and talk about that a little bit later. But without further ado, let's get started with a couple of demos. So I know at least I'm preparing to do a demo. I know Taylor is going to do a demo. And then Robin, I think you have a demo that we'll throw in as well, a DevTools demo. Nice. Roman, I see you're just joining. If you have a demo from the hackathon, please feel free. But I think we'll start with Taylor. So Taylor, take it away.
Oh boy. Okay. Let me share the screen. Where is the just the single window I'm looking for? Apparently it doesn't do that. So we're gonna just share the desktop. Always risky. Oh no, there it is. Perfect. Got it. Okay. Okay, ye old terminal demo for this. I guess I should share the display because then I can link this later. So I just decided, Llama 3 just released. It's real nice if you haven't used it. And the Ollama API is ridiculously simple, so why not make it a WIT? So I did. And I created a provider and everything for it. So now, what's a question that someone would like to ask our computer overlords? I'm not going to use favorite color. What does somebody want to ask? Interactive demo. Somebody feed me something that's not a Monty Python quote. Or the answer to life, universe, and everything, which is the first thing that everybody goes to.
Is this like a question answering tool, or we're
Uh,
expecting to
just,
like
just,
ask factual
just
questions or anything?
anything. Man, y'all are boring. Okay, I'll come up with one, don't worry. Okay, so I will say, what dwarf planets exist outside of the orbit of Pluto? Okay, we'll do that. There's a factual question. So, we'll go ahead and do this. It'll take just a second. I just saw Lachlan's in the chat. Why is blue? That would be one way to do this.
It's a good follow-up.
That's a good follow-up after this. So anyway, we'll give this a second to run. So essentially what's happening while this is going on. Perfect. There we go. Okay. So this isn't that impressive, but the point I'm showing it is wash get inventory. And you'll see that this is actually running as a component that's consuming an AI thing and a provider that's giving that AI thing and then serving it through an HTTP server. Brooks and I have like low key been working on, well, Brooks mostly, but I've been encouraging him to do as we've been working on like a bot for some things. And the whole point of having this is you could tie in whatever AI. So essentially I have it all configured by doing what's the name of this file that I'm looking for? So the WDAM example you can see here, like I'm telling it which model name it can use and which thing it's allowed to be connected to. And it's just really like a representation of the UI. So if I go ahead and actually show that, it's really simple. This is just the generate API. I'm eventually going to expand this to be the whole API. And then yeah, we basically have like the request and the response, and you can generate it. Right now, we have to do a little bit of a workaround while we're waiting for custom resources and things to land and support for generating those inside of Wasm time. But while we're waiting for that, like you do have to have like a higher timeout for this to all work. But basically, I go ahead and I run this and just generate. So essentially, you can back this with an OLAMA provider, anything that implements that like OLAMA API, you could adapt anything to it. So if you wanted to create like an OpenAI like Chat GPT thing, you could also just adapt that into because the API is very similar. You could just adapt it into this fairly easily. So anyway, pretty cool. It's actual AI running through WebAssembly being provided by a provider that could be running anywhere. Obviously, this is all on my machine, but I could be running it like in any of our normal wasmCloud demos. It could be distributed, running on and then the Olama provider could be running on a big beefy machine that's running like the 80 billion parameter model with full 16-bit floats. Like it could be doing that. Um, in this case, I'm just using the 8 billion parameter model with the full width quantization. So anyway, there's kind of like I said, it's really simple, but I wanted to show that we got it all working. It's there. It was incredibly simple to do. It's an entirely custom and new interface, and this provider is available at let me link it in chat. But it is just under my name right now. I'll probably move it into a uh what's that called? Like community supported thing, repo or whatever. When like I've polished it up a bit. But yeah, this was just a day. This was a day's worth of hacking and just kind of hacked it together. So it actually wasn't even a day, it was half of a day before I moved on to something else that I might tease a little bit later. But not after Brooks's demo, because Brooks's demo will destroy any excitement that mine generates.
Taylor, have you thought at all about I tried, I don't know, few months ago. It seemed possible to go from open API to WIT. The problem is that there are more types in the open API than there are. Well, it's not always obvious where you're going. Like there's different I don't know, different types and possible uses. Types can possibly be other types in WIT than open API. So I don't know. It seems like if somebody really spent a lot of time taking a very complex API, I don't know, so like the AWS API, and like generating WIT for all of that, and then we changed WIT. We had, as we will, right? It seems like you'd want to automatically update it. I don't know.
There's already a tool for this actually.
Okay, I knew there was the tool for WIT to Open API. I didn't know there was the
No, it's Open API to WIT if I remember right. This is where I call on Bailey if she's around to talk more about that. It's both. Okay, it's both. There she goes. She yells from the background.
Thank you, Bailey. Yeah.
So it can do both and be generated. Now I know obviously there's different types and things that can happen, but there was a point for having that because a lot of these things that are open API could be represented as WIT and then just have a single implementation in whatever language is best, which would be the ideal feature. But anyway, Here is one that I whipped up real fast, attached into wasmCloud. I did not need to update hosts. I did not need to do anything. I just attached in a capability for AI things. So there you go. That demo is complete.
Wait, did you ask why is blue?
Fine. We'll see what the AI says when I ask it why is blue.
I guess that's not what I raised my hand for, but I thought of it after.
But how is blue? It's probably our head why is blue.
Well, see, everybody asks how is blue, but everybody asks why is blue. Nobody asks how is blue.
We'll let that think for a second. It might have to dig deep to answer that question.
Can I ask you a hardball question?
Sure.
So this is a new capability provider and interface, right?
I guess it is.
Did you have, oh my God. Did you have anything that came out of writing the new provider that you planned on turning it into like actionable issues in the wasmCloud repo? Like, were there any rough edges, anything that you kind of had to work around? It's part hardball, part I did the same thing, so I'm curious what you thought.
we really want to release we have a crate, it's even still called Actor because we haven't updated it. That's that's in the wasmCloud repo that just has a bunch of handy helpers that all of us have now copy pasted to all of our actors. Um, that basically makes the using all the gross low level stream stuff with an HTTP request in particular way easier to be like more like a native Rust way of reading and writing from it. So those are like I think the goal for that crate is we want to get it out and we want to put it under a namespace that isn't wasmCloud because it isn't wasmCloud specific. It honestly just works for components, and so that would be something that we'd keep around for people to use until we can get that kind of top level support for it in the actual Rust standard library, so that when you compile to wasm 32 P2, I think is what the target's going to be called or something like that. Then it will actually like just use that kind of thing for its implementations. But that is kind of the first thing. The other thing is that like I really want to make sure we can get one of the things we had to wait for that I mentioned was we need full like stream support and resource support out of the box for custom interfaces. Part of that was just like I said, blocked by things that were missing from wasmTime that just released, so we'll have to bump the wasmTime version, which means we'll have to release a new version of the host. Um, but those things are easily solvable.
Sweet. Yeah, that's good to hear. I am concerned that the output of that why is blue question said a way that we humans perceive color. So llama officially is in the human camp now. Pretty cool. Folks have any other questions for Taylor? All right. With a surprise delight, I think Roman said that he is prepared as of a few seconds ago, he said, to do a demo. Roman, would you like to go ahead?
Sure, let's try that. Okay, I'll take a moment. Sorry, let's try this. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see everything it looks like.
Okay, but you see a bunch of terminals, right?
Oh,
We see a
No.
window with,
We see ourselves.
yeah.
yeah, just
I'll get them. Okay. Yeah, I can't prepare for it. I wasn't ready for them. I'm sorry, but this is not gonna work. I'm gonna have to rejoin, but I'll come soon. Okay. So.
okay. I have two demos. One is small, so I will do the small demo and then throw it to you, Roman. Okay, so I worked on a couple of things. I think it's probably easiest to just share everything. So you get everything. Very fun. I worked on a couple of different things. The first thing that I wanted to work on was a use, an extra use of the wasmCloud messaging interface, something that we shipped with the host with 1.0. And I thought it would be great if we use the messaging interface to be able to make Discord and Slack bots, things that the APIs for Discord and Slack can be kind of complicated to get used to. You usually have to do it in a specific language. Like Slack has a totally new API that's very like Dino TypeScript based. And I actually took a pause before getting to the Slack provider part, but I did write a Discord provider. So what this capability provider does, you use the capability provider itself, and you link from the provider to a component. And all you need to do is provide a token for authenticating with the Discord API. So you go through like their intro documentation, you get your API token, and then you can store that in a secret. So here I'm actually using the named configuration feature of wasmCloud. I created a token and stored it under JanetBot token in Wash. I'm not going to show you it though, because it is a real secret. But that is kind of one of the benefits of this named configuration model is I don't have to put my secret directly in the WADA manifest. I can just reference it and then it will pull that from the Wash configuration. And then I have a Discord provider, and then I can just use, I can write a WebAssembly component in whatever language, as long as it uses the wasmCloud messaging interface, which is very similar to WASI. I mean, it's essentially the way WASI messaging is right now. It just needs a further proposal stage to get into like WASI Cloud. So my actual logic for, I'll show you the provider first. The provider, essentially, whenever we receive a Discord message, I mold that into the type that wasmCloud messaging expects. So I use the unique ID of the message as a reply topic, and then I take the content of the message and just serialize that. And then I send that message to a linked wasmCloud component. And as a part of handling that, the component will be able to get the text from the message and then decide to send a certain set of messages back if it wants to. The way that the provider is laid out is pretty simple. As soon as something links from the provider to a component, we grab the token from the configuration, and then we use this crate called Serenity. I guess it's like a Discord client crate, and we create a client that's authenticated with Discord. So all I have in the background, if I run watch app list, I have my bad Janet from the Good Place bad Janet application running. And if I take a look at my inventory, we can see that I have my component bad Janet and my messaging Discord provider. So all of this is running. I actually have this all configured through the GitHub or the Discord API, everything to run and be installed into a Discord community that I own. I don't really use this for anything other than testing bots. But you'll see, oh, I didn't show the logic. If we look at the bad Janet Discord bot, we basically take a look at the message. And if if you tag this bot and you say ping, anything includes ping, then Bad Janet will pong it with her usual sassy Bad Janet behavior and then tell you to go back to the good place. So we're actually sending two messages in response, which is pretty cool. So here I can come into the bot test channel and I can say hello. I can tag Bad Janet and I can say hello, which of course won't do anything, doesn't include the message, but I can tag Bad Janet and say ping, and she will send back two messages in response. So this is a super simple way to write a Discord bot. I mean, I'll be honest, it took me a couple of hours to write the capability provider, just getting used to the API. But now I have a reusable piece, a reusable provider that I can use for any Discord bot that just needs to be able to react to messages and send messages. So it's pretty easy to see how you could extend this to use like WASI key value. You could extend this to use a different database storage thing to count how many messages you got or do some complex logic, things like that. So that was a pretty fun, or you could use maybe something like an Olama provider to actually take the contents of the message, answer a question, send back a response because the Discord communication is very asynchronous, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll send the link to the repo there if anybody feels like playing with it. If I can get some time, I'll try to do it for Slack, but they changed their whole API recently. I don't know. It's like a whole thing. So whatever. It is really cool that I got to write this Discord bot and test it all using the Nats messaging capability provider, just like sending requests to make sure the logic was right. And I actually got to swap that out for the Discord bot. All right. Folks have questions on that one. It's a small one. It's fun. Cool. Roman, wait, is Roman gone?
Roman's still not bad. Maybe we should have Robin demo hers.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Robin, if anybody saw, there was a channel named Diablo 2. I did previously write a wasmCloud, actually not a wasmCloud, just a regular Discord bot that counted how many times everybody in the party perished in our Diablo 2 run, which was pretty fun. But
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, here, let me, I'll share screen and y'all can see what I've been working on. I guess I share a whole screen, right? Yeah. So I recently made a little project called Workspaces on Wasm, or WoW. And WoW is a little workspace manager. And so if you install the WoW from the repo, or currently it's not published on crates yet, and you clone some repo that has like a CUDL file, a KDL file, as of like, KDL.dev, one of these, then it will actually, in this case, it says, hey, my registry is bawa.dev, and my tool is wasm tools and packages, whatever. This registry, like there is not actually a namespace here for this, and wasm tools isn't yet in it, but it's sort of like an example of what you might see. And if you initialize it then and add, the shims to your is actually .wow bin now to your bash RC or whatever, then you'll be able to invoke them from the command line. So there's examples here of like a more practical, if you want to actually test this. If you go here, and I have it all set up here, I have like a development environment, and we go to examples. You see, we've got this like little KDL file that's here that just says, hey, we have this package called this tool called Cowsay. It goes to this package, URL, wow Cowsay. We have cat2, which is just like another version of cat, and it just goes to this package called kitty. And I'll show you really briefly actually that these exist. So we have like wow Cowsay and wow kitty, so like this is here is up to 0.2, just because I cleaned up the printed out cow stuff. And things are already set up here, but in general, the sort of gist is that, all right, you write wow in it, it's already pre-initialized, but still prints out that stuff. And now from the jump, we're able to like type Cowsay into the terminal, and Cowsay, I don't know, what should the Cowsay? Can we get what do we want?
I kind of want to pipe the output from the Olama thing into Cowsay, but
Hi wasmCloud community, Hi wasmCloud community, right? So it's taking your command line arguments, it's piping them in, and we can actually see really quickly how this works. If we go to like .wow, which is like a bin directory, and that bin directory, ignore wow. Wow is actually my own shim so that it points to my build, like my target directory instance of the installed version for development purposes. So wow wouldn't normally be there. I've just shimmed my own wow myself. But for example, if we look at what's in cat2, cat2 is just a little shim where all it does is run wow run cat2 and then paste in your arguments after. And so what that means is that when you're running Cowsay or cat2 here, we can do cat2 for a second, right? We can do wow cuddle, it's cat, it does what you expect it to do. And yeah, so all it does really is that we're invoking this little script. The little script is invoking wow. Wow run is detecting which workspace we're in, finding the appropriate package that was mapped to that tool name, and then executing it in wasm time. So there's this whole like run file here where we set up a WASI config for our, the tool we're going to run, and then we run it. So this is all running sandbox and wasm. And actually one of the reasons, and the reason I called it workspace manager, and I talk about workspace as an abstraction, it's in the name, is that the security model is that the command that you're running can only see the directory from your config down. Like it can't see the rest of your computer. This is a sandbox tool. It doesn't have access to the whole machine. But also I think people don't typically want the security model of their dev tools to be like individually granting permissions on a file by file basis to each tool. That's like a little nuisance. But so I think the workspace is this abstraction that's very useful to people, right? And being able to include a wow.cuddle file in your repo, have wasm tools, have some sort of build tools, or a linter or formatter, and then have people be able to just run wow in it and start executing those tools in a much safer way than just like cargo installing a random binary onto your system, which could theoretically do like whatever. And there are some security things to think about. It's not like a bulletproof sort of thing. And I address some of the sort of possible security considerations and like room for improvement in this document over here. But it is, I think, a pretty nice demonstration of what we can do with WebAssembly to make safer, better dev tools. Yes, Taylor.
Just for the WASM initiated among us, which is most of us, is it all you have to do to make a tool work here, implement WASI CLI run, or is it
Yeah, so
something
this
else?
currently runs anything that is in the CLI world. In the future, there may be like extra imports that we allow for certain things, like we may extend or offer multiple different worlds, but right now the only world offered is the CLI world. And yeah, anything you compile. So these, for example, over here are just cargo component, like the actual implementation for Cowsay and Kitty are right here in the repo as well. And they're just cargo component default, I don't know if they say what world they are, but the default, since they're not libraries, is that it's just the CLI world. And that just works.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So we
There's
can
nothing. This is the entire implementation of Kitty, so.
So we could take anything really, as long as we adapt it to the WASI CLI world, it'll just work out of the box.
Pretty much, yeah.
Nice.
Robin, I bet it looks like some folks have never seen WADEV before. Do you mind talking about what that is?
So, I've been engaged with the registry group for a while now, we could say. And the registry is sort of, there's a protocol org, and there's a lot of work on to implement that in a reference implementation. And also some of our members of that group have actually made a like deployed production available registry for WebAssembly components. That's some cool features. Like as you're seeing here, like it's showing us that like Cowsay, imports file system. If you click on file system, it actually like takes you to generated docs for the file system API. It's a pretty cool thing. It's like a first example of a, so we can go like, wow, Kitty, and go see the other one. And if there were multiple versions, you'd see them here. It knows that it's a CLI, for example. So I don't know, I haven't tested this part out, but I presume that there either is or there will be a way to filter by CLIs. It's already tagged for that. So presumably at some point this will link to like a tagged search or something. But yeah, they've done some pretty cool work to like make registries available and to make it possible to do this demo, right? Because you can't do the demo where like, hey, I write a file that says what version of a package I want, and it automatically gets installed and run if there's nowhere to install and run it from. And so really that is a key part of it, is that this is built on top of wasmTime, WASI, CLI, and Warg. And the demo is based off of using this WoW namespace that I created in WADev.
Very cool. Thank you, Robin. I think tools like this just show once we have components and we have some of these like fundamentals, we can just start building all kinds of crazy stuff.
It is pretty crazy how
componentize
little
the world.
That's the goal, right? I really want to see our dev tools become components and really dog food that, and really have like WASM tools and componentize Pi and Jco and all these things be available as WASM that we can install and sandbox and like dog food all the way down. One thing that's cool is that like there is some work in doing this, but it's actually not that much. If you like skim through the code, and I'll link the here really quickly, I will link this in the chat for anybody who wants it, except the chat icon is always underneath where my webcam covers. Oh no, it's not. It's over here. Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's really not as much in this as you might think is required to implement a whole workspace manager. Like WebAssembly and the registry projects give a really strong foundation, and I was able to build this in the matter of actually 2 days. So yeah, there's a lot more left to do. I want to do some cool stuff around caching. So like taking the compiled WebAssembly and saving that in a directory and then using that instead of having like recompilation of WASM every execution, because that incurs a performance cost. You might notice that like for what this does, that's kind of maybe a bit of time, and like cat, wow, cuddle, actually that was pretty good. Oh no, we need cat too. Right. So that was a bit of a pause for cat, like these tools, ideally, there is like a little bit of startup latency that I want to work on fixing with caching. In fact, I have or no, is it just list? I have like a work in progress caching project to like do this. Yeah, anyway, lots of stuff to look at in the future. I think there's some incredible stuff we'll be able to do with our own ecosystem. And I think it really proves that we have sound primitives, right? That the same component model you can use to run your server components, you could also run your dev tools as.
This is really cool. Well, Brahman, if you have updates over the next couple hours, couple days, I know that we have like just a WebAssembly channel in the wasmCloud Slack, please ping updates. I'm pretty interested to see where it goes. And let us know if we should take some of our components and push them to Wada Dev for some testing. That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, I think if you have CLI tools that you're already able to compile to, the CLI world, I think it'd be great to start putting those in a registry. Even to test this, I was like, hey, are there any CLIs out there in the registry? And the answer was no. So I had to like write Causa and write Kitty just to have something to play with. And the more that we have like real tools in there, I think the more they'll actually start to be really practically valuable to somebody, and also, we can test things more. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have any like regular updates. This is a project that I'm probably going to like ramp down on. I have like balancing several projects. I'm actually going to talk to people about potentially contributing this to the Bytecode Alliance so that it's part of like a larger governance sort of thing. I think there's some projects I work on that don't, I think, belong in the Bytecode Alliance, but this one feels like it does. So I'm going to investigate that.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Oh, and also if you want to contribute or if you're interested in like looking at the code, reviewing, helping maintain WoW going forward, like please reach out, and happy to have help.
Okay, I want to see more demos.
Okay, I'm gonna sneak in here. Sorry, Roman, I saw your back, but this like just piggybacks so well on top of what Robin just showed. So I'm working on something. It's not entirely done, but I'm gonna show it working with what I've got, and then it'll be fully working by next week because that's what I'm working on today. But let me show off this. Oh, sorry, that is the Olama code. This is what I'm looking for. Okay, so I have been working on adding wash plugins. And the reason why this overlaps so well is that, yes, a wasmCloud shell brooks, is that if I come down here, oh, I actually should probably stash this change real quick or else I'm not going to be able to run it. So inside of washlib is where I've added this, and I'm adding it into the wash CLI right now. But we have multiple different types of plugins that we'll eventually support. But the first thing we're adding in is basically the ability to add custom subcommands into wash. And all that this actually looks like, if we look at the WIT, is this. We allow you access to all the WASI CLI world and the outgoing handler, so you can make HTTP requests. We'll also put the control interface once we update that. And then the plugins just have to basically export WASI CLI run. And then here, I'll
Hey,
plus
Taylor,
it.
will you
I'll
make it
plus it. I
bigger?
know, Grandma Bailey needs it. Okay. So the sorry, for those who might think that's a joke Bailey and I have when Bailey can't see. So
I got bad eyes, y'all.
So
I think we all understood, Taylor.
oh, I know, but people on the live stream who watch this later might not pick up on it. That was a joke. Okay, so there are imports here that you can pull in from the WASI CLI world, and you have to export a subcommand interface that's custom for Wash, and then WASI CLI run. So essentially, we're making this all compatible and be really easy to take an existing thing. So for example, if you took cat2 and you wanted to add that to Wash for some reason, or Cowsay would be a more likely one. All you'd have to do is compose a little adapter that'd sit on top that would give it the plugin metadata, because all subcommand does is give the plugin metadata. So if we look at the rest of the this interface,
okay.
Yep, there I was getting there. Right here, this is all it is. You have metadata that you return with a register function, and so this is just some metadata that's turned back so it can be attached to the Wash CLI. So you could take something like Cowsay, compose something that has just the metadata. It'd be like an incredibly tiny, probably only a few like 100 bytes component, and then just glue it into this right here, and it'd have the data, and you could adapt it to work on here. So that's why I thought it was really important to show this after what Robin just showed. And I'll show you this running with a test. Like I said, I haven't fully integrated it into the CLI yet, but I can show you the test. So the test is just going to build all that, like build the plugin and then run the plugin and just show like the output. So I'll go ahead and run the test here so you all can see it. And yes, by the way, Robin is mentioning Claw, which is another project she's worked on in the chat. I thought about this as like this would be exactly what Claw is designed for. Hey, I just want to kind of smack something right on top of this. So anyway, I just ran this thing. It shows like all my different like environment variables. Right now I'm passing through all of them. I show the arguments that I pass through to it. I show going out and getting an HTTP request and fetching a picture of a dog, a random picture of a dog, and then like a hello from it. And so basically this can now be attached, and once I get this all working, I'll be like wash hello, and then it'll run this command. So then you're able to extend into whatever you're doing. So people who are running this in larger enterprises, so I don't think the machine metric folks are on today, but like they're running it a bigger thing. They could write their own custom plugins that tie into their system. And we like it just basically is a nice way to extend and add functionality so that we can also use it even possibly as a test bed for wash. Like if we want to try something first, we write it as a component and then put that in. We could also break apart parts of wash into their own components and then do it that way. So this will get more fully featured, like as the wasmCloud interfaces get linked in, we might latch in some of those. Like for example, we'll probably include messaging by default in here, because then you can use like the NAT stuff that you're already using for the rest of wasmCloud stuff. So anyway, like I said, terminal demo, not all the way there. Next week, I'm going to demo the whole shebang, hopefully, but just wanted to latch onto and build on top of what Robin was saying. Like, all this is, when we go back down to it, is the CLI world. It's just basically a thin shim on top of that for the stuff that we need to glue it into the plugin. So pretty straightforward and simple.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting that we're like solving similar problems, by embedding subcommands in Wash and by running them other places. I think we see a lot of people probably being like, hey, we have these CLI components. Can we do something with that? I'm also interested in like actual like one layer deeper of plugin actually, which is plugin to the tool. Like you have a linter and somebody writes an extra lint rule or something that is a component that gets run inside of or connected to the other component.
That's
And that's
what
one
we're
thing I'm
going to do
hoping
too. Like that's what we have in that. That's why I had that note in the WIT file that basically says we want to do this for like auth hooks and then like basically extension layers on. So there's some pretty
we should
interesting
chat
stuff
some
we can
about
do.
this.
Yeah. It should all work. Like everything, the point I want to point out here is everything we're doing, if you're doing it with the standards, will work with wasmCloud, it'll work with wasmTime, it'll work with whatever implements the standards. And that's what's important, because basically what like if I had thought about it, I probably could have gone and stolen the like Housei component from Robin and just shimmed the thing on top of it and then had that to demo. If I was feeling more up to it, I could probably do it by the end of the call, but I'm not going to do that right now. So anyway, we can go on to other demos now.
So
That's you, if you're ready.
All right, let's try again. Host disable screen share.
Ah,
Here we
1
go.
second too late. You should be
It's good though. Okay. All right, let's try again. I chose the wrong day to update my system. Do you see a bunch of terminals now?
Very teeny tiny terminals, but yes.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it was because I started my Firefox with terminal last time, and that doesn't really work well with macOS, apparently. Anyway, so you might have heard of with RPC thing I'm working on for a while, a little bit. In short, is basically RPC framework where we define, functionality using WIT. Basically, let's say HTTP. We have HTTP contract right here, and it supports things like async, so stream, futures, resources are coming. And so basically, what we do actually on the wire, we just send WebAssembly, but it is not exactly the WebAssembly value encoding like in canonical ABI sense, but it is actually component model value encoding, something I'm actually working right now, adding to component model spec, which is basically how, in your WebAssembly component, your default values, for example, will be encoded using this encoding. So this is just standard WebAssembly encoding, which currently is pending merge. So far we have, the Rust functionality mostly implemented. So we have a bind gen and things like that. But I decided to try and see how difficult it would be to get a Go plugin, let's say, working with this. It's not working within wasmCloud right now, but there's no reason why we couldn't be able to just, kind of plug this into Flex. But so what I wanted to show you is I have a simple, the Rust part is nicer, but so let's say I have the client here. It's going to use HTTP. You use HTTP contract to basically use a Go HTTP client implementation, which is going to actually, do the HTTP outbound request. For now, just get, but whatever. Right. So it's going to actually use Go's HTTP client from Rust via WebRPC, which is going to send the request over NATs, encoding all the values using WebAssembly encoding. So I have my Go thing right here, and let's say I do google.com. I don't really know a better domain to ask for, but here we go. This google.com served by a Go program over WebRPC to my Rust, invoker, let's say, right? And you can see here this whole traffic was appeared on NATs. This is not optimized for the Go case because I just did everything manually, but I'm going to work on a library for this as well. Yeah, I guess it's pretty short demo. I just wanted to show that, hey, I got a Go thing working here. It was SAT is all very manual, so I'm just like, manually kind of reading bytes and doing like this LED 128 kind of reading from the UINT. But yeah, so this interface actually has streaming as well. So it is supported. Well, it doesn't actually use streams, but it is able to at least decode these and send back kind of the fake streams back to the Rust program. Yeah, I guess that's about it. That's my demo.
Super cool that you're able to do this so quickly, Roman. So like this is an eventual path to getting to write some Go code to interact with WRPC. Well, I mean that's what it's doing, but a Go capability provider, that'd be pretty nice. That'd be pretty nice.
You were just asked a question in chat, and the answer is we want it to be for WASM in general. We think WRPC is a protocol that Roman developed WIT over RPC. So the idea is let's communicate with WIT as our lingua franca for all of our APIs, and it's protocol agnostic or transport agnostic, I should say. Sorry. And because it's transport agnostic, yeah, you can glue it anyway. Roman just showed it working here, but we can make it work with NATs. That's what we're showing because that's our transport. But yeah, any more you want to say there, Roman?
No, yeah, that's about right. So it is a transport agnostic protocol to say. It's actually very lean kind of things. I would be calling it like the protocol itself, but yeah, so the first say proof of concept was NATs, and it's almost MVP ready. It's just the resources, like the distributed resources, a bit tricky thing we have to still implement. But certainly, like our hoping is that we could use this basically using WRPC to extend, let's say, your WebAssembly runtime embeddings to add some native plugins with functionality, for example, for your runtimes. So that's kind of the use case here. So one transport that we actually want to work on later, but sooner rather than later, actually is IPC mechanism. So maybe like you don't necessarily need to use NAT to actually invoke some native plugins, basically, which you could just use a Unix socket or something on Unix or like a Windows native pipe to actually invoke these separate binaries to essentially extend your WebAssembly runtimes. Yeah. And if you are willing to contribute, we are definitely very happy about that. And yeah, it's not anyhow like it's not specific to wasmCloud at all. wasmCloud uses WRPC, but it can be used outside. It can even be used outside WebAssembly context. In fact, you don't even need to use Wasm for it.
All right, folks. Well, I think I have one more demo that I definitely want to share as we get to the end. I want to make sure we have enough time. So let me go ahead and share my whole screen again. Warning, I'm gonna go back and forth between an IDE and the browser, so shield your eyes if you don't have sunglasses going. So that should be pretty fun. Okay, so what I have been working on is this little project called Wit to, that's a typo. Wow, Wit to Wadham. So the actual project, what I have been interested in for a long time is if you take a look at a component, something that's using WASI.2 APIs and then the couple of built-in APIs that we include for wasmCloud, we take a look at, this key value counter component, for example, or even if we take a look at the WIT world that we use to define the interfaces for this component, we know exactly what this component is going to do at runtime. It imports two interfaces, the WASI key value atomics and WASI key value store, and it exports WASI HTTP incoming handler. And if you are thinking about this, you know that wasmCloud has capability providers that can work with both of these interfaces. So we have an HTTP server that can be the capability provider for WASI HTTP. And we have key value Redis, key value Vault, a couple implementations, but at least key value Redis that can implement both atomics and store. And so looking at this WIT, we have all the information to create a Wadham manifest for this application. So I was like, it would be great to have a tool to do this. So that's what I've been hacking on. So I created Wit to Wadham. I guess I keep saying Wit to Wasm here, but it's Wit to Wadham. And the key part of this is a library where we can either load a WIT folder or a component and essentially parse the resolved interfaces here and turn that into a Wadham manifest. So I'll ping the link to this here pretty shortly. But to take a look at what this looks like, we can run the Wit to Wadham CLI with this WIT folder and tell it to generate a Wadham for the world hello. When we do that, we actually get a full Wadham manifest with all of the default fields. We'll call it Wit to Wadham. We'll say this is auto-generated. Here is your component image. But we include the spread scalar trait, and taking a look at this WIT, we know that it's exporting HTTP and importing the key value functions. So we have a link to the key value Redis capability provider, and we have a link from the HTTP server to the component. So this actually just generates a full Wadham manifest for this individual component. You can also run Wit to Wadham with the component itself, and you get the exact same thing with some niceness, right? Like we have the file path here, so we can include that. And if we really wanted to get fancy here, I had included options for saying things like, hey, the name here is KV counter, description is this is an app, and we can say that the version is v 1.0 or something. And that allows you to provide all of the metadata. Say, hey, here's the application name, here's the description, version, all that stuff. Great. So this is a Rust library and a Rust binary. So you can kind of just install this and run it on your computer. We kind of thought that this would be cool to run in Wash as well, eventually as a library, something like that. But there's more. So I do have this project, and it's a binary and a library, and that's all fun and good. But if we go to the wit2 Wadham directory, you may notice, if you take a look at this README, that you can also compile this library into a WebAssembly component. You can run wash build in this directory. And what that does is uses the library file here that I've written and a WIT interface to convert, essentially a WIT component call into calling this library. And everything works with WebAssembly out of the box. So we have this one function called component to WADM. And we can give it the bytes of a WebAssembly component, and then optionally all of this metadata here to create a WADM manifest, and it comes back, just kind of as a string in WADM, which is really cool. And I could turn this into a wasmCloud app, and that's how the component works. But wait, there's more. So because this is a WebAssembly component, you may know WebAssembly is something that can run in the browser, which is a really cool capability of WebAssembly to be able to take server-side code and run it in the client. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir, but I can't help it with the setup for this. So I was actually able to take this component and use the tool called Jco, which is the JavaScript component tooling from the Bytecode Alliance. Let me go ahead and pull that up while I'm talking about it. For people who haven't seen it before, it's just called Jco. And what I can do is I can transpile this WebAssembly component that I've built into Java. Did I just do that? Yeah, sorry. There we go. Into some JavaScript and WebAssembly files. And then I can actually use this to serve this little dumb web UI that I've built that ChatGPT definitely didn't help me with. And I can take a look at this little dumb application called Wit to Wadham and say, hey, this is my KV counter app. This is my key value application. This is version 1. And I can, if I know the image for this, I can put something in, but I don't, so I'll just leave it blank. And then I can actually drag this WebAssembly component into this browser window, and it will output the WADM manifest. This is actually calling the same component that I was using, or that I could use from the wasmCloud context, or that I was using from the Rust binary side, and giving me a full manifest. So let me do one more thing here. I can add in the path for the HTTP key value counter and upload this again. So I can generate this manifest. I can copy it to my clipboard. And if you noticed back here, I actually went into the wasmCloud repository. wasmCloud, examples, Rust components, key value counter. And there is no WADM manifest in here. I can take the WADM manifest that I automatically generated from Wit to WADM, and then I can wash app deploy that manifest, and then I can curl it right away. Hello, wasmCloud community. And that just works. So from, granted, I did give it a name and a description and a version, but you don't have to do that. From just this straight up WebAssembly component, I can actually generate an entire application manifest and then run that directly in wasmCloud using WADM. So, but wait, there's more. Not only am I running this locally, WebAssembly and HTML and JavaScript and all those things are just static web files. So if you are interested in trying this out, you can actually go to this application, host it on GitHub Pages, and drop in your WebAssembly component, and out will come a WADM manifest for your application. Just a couple of notes. This does have support for custom interfaces, just like wasmCloud does. So if I take a component, I know that we have one here in our test fixtures. Let me actually look at I'm like doing this. Oh, of course, there's no app. So this WebAssembly component has a WIT interface called test actors testing, which we use for testing. We will actually pull that out and assume that that is a capability or a component that you need to run. So we do have support still for generating links for custom components. So this will work even if you have your own custom interfaces. There are, of course, probably some edge cases because it's been a hackathon project that I've been working on. But yeah, this was really fun to take the component and do it, all the way top to bottom, running the browser, all that stuff. Folks have any questions about this one?
So Brooks, when we think about, I mean, you ran it, we created the WADM, and we take this component that is, say, importing HTTP, and let's just say HTTP. And when we specify a specific, web server for it, what's your thinking around like a concept of like default capabilities? If we had, at one point we had a wasmCloud JavaScript host. Like would that give us a little bit more flexibility if we didn't specify imports and the platform that you're running on or starting on could have a set of defaults configured at runtime that it would just choose if nothing's specified there?
Yeah, I kind of feel like this is the laying the groundwork or a baseline for that, because implicitly when you're using a WebAssembly, when you're exporting WASI HTTP, that doesn't mean you have to use a wasmCloud capability. But like using a tool like this, you're going to run it in wasmCloud. Here is the open source, the official provider for doing that. I think the next evolution of something like this, if it works really well and people are always going to the default case, is just to do this kind of automatically at runtime. Is that kind of what you're asking about? Like, yeah, having these kind of be built
I
in.
mean, what I really think is, I can imagine a scenario where you might have a bunch of different HTTP servers, for example, depending on where you're running. If I'm running in AWS, I might have one that's tightly coupled, or to the AWS environment, it may use load balancers or something along those lines. If I'm running on an edge device, maybe it does something different. Maybe there's a caching web server. Or a testing web server. I might have different things that want to run in different places. So I could see these being like, I can see some pros and cons. I could imagine times when I do want to specify that this is what I want to run in this place, but I could imagine times when I want to say run this and then use whatever is the default for this, starting location or something like that.
What's critically important, and what I really love about the solution that Brooks showed here with his WDAM YAML, is that everything is fully declarative. So even if we have a type of default capability feature, I would expect us to have a declarative implementation of that feature that existed as part of the WDAM deployment. So very much the groundworks for something like that, and that would be really cool. Also, I'm just giddy after what Brooke showed. That was such a classic Liam move. It'd be like, that was cool. All right, and then what can we do next?
What are you going to do for me tomorrow? No, I look, this whole call is like blowing my mind. I mean, every demo on here is just really just showing off all of this hard work that we have spent the last year planning out for wasmCloud 1.0. I mean, that's how long, the plan was in flight. All the host work, the component work, WRPC. It's been a real build out to get here, and it's just amazing to start to see the power of, this fully operational battle station, now that it's online.
I'm also just blown away at Brooks having been able to do that in like a day. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed doing that. My original goal for the demo was just to get it to be a component in a wasmCloud app. And then I remembered about Jco transpile, and I couldn't help it. I was hacking a lot yesterday. It was a lot of fun getting that to work. All right, folks. I know that we're over time here, so I just want to I want to make sure that I wrap up. If folks have more questions, please feel free to let us know in Slack. We'll get we'll get the community meeting notes up right after, which will include summaries and things of the demos. But what I want to really call out is that next week we plan on doing a wasmCloud road mapping discussion. So we'll have time for a demo too or anything in the beginning of the call. But plan on coming to the if you're planning on coming next week, what we'll be working on, and everybody is welcome to come and join and pitch in feedback, is taking the features and issues and wants, use cases for the next minor release of wasmCloud, which we're loosely planning on getting out over the next quarter of development this year. We're going to be road mapping that on a GitHub project board out in the open. So everybody, please feel free to come. If you have any input or feature requests or things that you want to see us work on and prioritize, please let me know. You can reach out to me in Slack or even leave in a GitHub issue and just say, hey, I'd love this to be. Everybody would love everything to be prioritized, but I'd love for this to make it into the next minor release. That would be really great and much appreciated. I'm going to be reaching out to a couple people over the next week as well, just to make sure that I get everyone's feedback. So that was all that I had for the discussion item there. I know that we're over time. Do folks have anything else related to demos or the discussion for next week? Otherwise, I think we'll close it out and look for next time.
Yeah. Thanks though. That was awesome. All that stuff was great.
Thanks, Colin. Yeah. It's too fun getting to hack with this stuff sometimes. You actually build stuff. Alrighty. Well, then I think we'll just go ahead and cut the live stream for here. But thank you all for coming and watching. Thanks for entertaining all of our little hackathon projects. And we'll see you next time.